You are listening to the Lanterns Radio Network, where Americans come together to illuminate the truth. Turn it up loud and proud until the knob breaks off. Lanterns, illuminating the truth.
Revival starts right now. What you're listening to isn't meant to be easy, casual listening. We're going to question with boldness, seek out the truth, speak without fear, learn from history, learn from each other, so we can positively impact our future. This is the Free State. From the plains of Kansas, here on the Lanterns Radio Network. This is the Free Stater. I'm Ian Ballinger. Second week here on the Lanterns Radio Network. I am so honored to be here giving you this show right now. It's going to be a big show. I mean, an exciting show. A lot happened this week. Super Bowl Sunday. A lot of fun. Oh my goodness. Golly, Pete, that was some comeback. And, you know, everyone was rooting for the Falcons. ESPN, I remember ESPN or Fox Sports or whoever it was, came out with this map that showed, like, every state in the country, the majority of people were rooting for the Falcons, save for Massachusetts. I was rooting for the Patriots. Even from the opening kickoff, I was rooting for the Patriots. Mainly because, and this is going to sound really petty, but mainly because of the leftist outrage. Tom Brady's friends with Donald Trump. We can't have that. You're un-American if you root for the Patriots, which is kind of ironic because, you know, Patriot. Well, regardless. I'm not a traditional Patriots fan. I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan. But just hearing the leftist anger over Tom Brady being friends with Donald Trump, and the whole, like, he had a Make America Great Again hat in his locker or something like that. I don't know. That might have been a Photoshop. I don't know. But I saw it on Twitter. Don't trust everything you see on the internet, kids. Don't do it. But anyway, it was, because of all that, it was hard not to root for the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I was about to give up. Third quarter came around. That lead for the Falcons just kept growing. I was about to give up. And then the fourth quarter happened. Largest comeback in Super Bowl history. First overtime in Super Bowl history. And the Patriots won. It was incredible seeing Roger Goodell get booed. And that whole, like, kind of like vengeance storyline for Tom Brady go down. I'm speechless. I'm still speechless. It was insane. It was so much fun. Best Super Bowl I've ever witnessed in my lifetime. I'm so glad I didn't turn off the TV and go to sleep early like a lot of people say they did. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And good food. I know my family, don't know about your guys' family, we had some pretty good food. We had some nachos. We had some tacos. We had some meatballs. It was good food. And that halftime show, I know we got to get to my show here, but that halftime show, best halftime show in my lifetime for the Super Bowl, I think. I enjoyed it the most. You have Lady Gaga on the top of on the top of Energy Stadium doing God Bless America, saying One Nation Under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all, and then jumping down into the stadium, whether that was pre-recorded and she didn't really do that, or whether she really did it or not, whatever. It was fun. It was atmospheric, and she really didn't make any political statements like people thought she would. I remember the days leading up to the Super Bowl, literally everyone thought Lady Gaga was going to be making some sort of political statement. Oh, not my president, that kind of thing, like they did at the Screen Actors Guild Awards and the whatever these award shows are called. I don't watch award shows, so I don't even know what they're called. But you remember, like, those, what's her name? Meryl Streep went up and she started bad-mouthing Donald Trump, and she started bad-mouthing conservatives and Donald Trump supporters and junk like that. Americans are tired of that sort of thing. They just want to sit down, watch some football, watch a great halftime performance. I'm sorry, I don't normally get excited about the halftime performance, but that was just a lot of fun. And Lady Gaga, she's got a pretty good voice. I mean, it was obvious she wasn't lip-syncing. She did that piano piece, like, in the middle of the show. She's got a good voice. She's got a really good voice. It's not just auto-tune and all that. I'm saying this as someone that's not even really a Lady Gaga fan. I'm not trying to go Gaga over Gaga or whatever. I'm just saying, she had a good voice. The whole God Bless America thing at the beginning, and the whole One Nation Under God, and she points to the sky when she says under God. The drones, that was the cool thing for me as a film guy, a big film making enthusiast myself. It's just seeing the technology that went into it is incredible. It's incredible, and I thought she did a good job being uniting. I saw it as a uniting halftime show. A lot of people were worried, both on the left side of the spectrum. They wanted, on the left side of the political spectrum, I got the sense, just because of the way social media reacted, that the left wanted a political statement from Lady Gaga, and the right side of the spectrum didn't. I was one of the people that didn't want a political statement from Lady Gaga. Just sing. And she did, and it was great. She did a great job, and I thought just remaining neutral. I mean, to be honest, listen, she was probably a Hillary supporter. She was probably a Hillary supporter. She probably doesn't like Donald Trump. Whatever. There's a lot about Donald Trump I don't like. We'll get to that later. But hey, she did the most uniting thing she could have possibly done for the country at that halftime show, with 110 million people, or however many people were watching. She just sang good music. She said, God bless America. She was just a good night. It was just a good Super Bowl. And it was a refreshing halftime show, considering the ads that were going on during the Super Bowl, like the whole wage gap ad that played with that car commercial. I don't even remember the car brand because I don't care. But that whole car commercial where it was like, where the dad was like, what do I tell my daughter? That she'll be valued less than men? And it's just like, dude, you know what you could tell your daughter? You could tell your daughter the truth. The wage gap is a myth. And I remember seeing on Twitter, I think it was Kia. I could be wrong. I don't want to slander some company. I get it wrong. Let me look it up real quick. Let's see. The car company wage gap commercial. It might have been Kia. I don't remember. Kia was the one that did the Melissa McCarthy. They did the Melissa McCarthy one, and that was actually kind of funny. The Melissa McCarthy Save the Whales commercial or whatever it was. Yeah, it's a leftist commercial, but at the same time, it was funny. I mean, Melissa McCarthy's just a funny actress. I gotta give it to her. She's a funny actress. It was Audi that did the whole pay equality ad during the Super Bowl. And it's funny because Audi kind of rebuked their own ad. They kind of debunked their own ad on Twitter in response to somebody else. Here was a lady named Prepper Frog, it's quite the Twitter name, said, why do you pay your female employees less than males? You know that's against the law, right? And obviously she was doing it ironically. You know, she was trying to point out their hypocrisy. Oh, if you're saying that the wage gap is a thing. Audi responds and says, when we account for all the various factors that go into pay, women at Audi are on par with their male counterparts. They debunk the wage gap in 140 characters. It's hilarious. When you factor in everything that goes into pay, the number of hours people work, the jobs people have, the positions at the jobs people have, women are on the same level as men. The fact is that on average, and there are exceptions, but on average, men work jobs that are more lucrative than women. Men go into fields that are more lucrative than women do. Men tend, not always, again, there are exceptions. I know women that work longer hours than me. There's exceptions, but on average, men do tend to work longer hours than women. You account for all of these things, the wage gap is a complete myth. And I think I saw a statistic once that said that women in some parts of the country actually make more than men. That's besides the point. We were talking about the Super Bowl. Great Super Bowl, save for a few stupid ads. Other than that, great Super Bowl. I want to get to this Bernie Sanders versus Ted Cruz Obamacare debate. They sort of had this town hall on CNN about Obamacare and where America goes after Obamacare. So conservatives are always painted. Before I get to that, first of all, this was the debate I wanted in the presidential debates. We didn't get it. We got Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton instead. We got a huge government progressive and a slightly less huge progressive debating each other in Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. It wasn't that exciting. However, Ted Cruz and Bernie Sanders, you have the socialist candidate in Bernie Sanders. Everyone my age, college-aged, seemed to adore Bernie Sanders. He was like their long-lost grandpa or something like that. Everybody my age loves Bernie Sanders. Not a lot of people my age like Ted Cruz, and unfortunately, not a lot of conservatives like Ted Cruz. I thought Ted Cruz was the constitutionalist conservative candidate. He is the constitutionalist conservative candidate. Unfortunately, he didn't win. Maybe in 2020. We'll see. I'm still kind of hoping Donald Trump gives me a reason to vote for him in 2020. I mean, it's early in his presidency. Donald Trump could do a lot to evolve into a more conservative politician. I just don't think he's there yet. But anyway, this Bernie Sanders, Ted Cruz, the Obamacare debate that happened on Tuesday this week on CNN. Here's the thing. Conservatives are always painted by the media and by Hollywood as these heartless monsters. Oh, capitalism is evil. It's a selfish system. Top 1%. I'm going to try to do my Bernie Sanders voice here. Oh, tax the rich. I'm not very good at it, but you get the idea. If you're conservative, if you're a capitalist, if you're a constitutionalist, you're painted as this heartless monster. Oh, you don't want to give health care to people. You just want to see little kids die on the street. No, that's not true. There's more to it than these anecdotal arguments you're giving. But I digress. So I kind of feel like this debate may have shifted people's viewpoints on the heartless, conservative, compassionate, socialist idea. And I say that because of the way Bernie Sanders treated this small business owner during the debate. Listen. And I want to make it clear before we get into it, this is a small business owner. She's not the top 1%. She's not the rich, tax the rich. She's nothing like that. She's a small business owner, employs less than 50 people, and this is how the compassionate socialist grandfather, Bernie Sanders, treats her.
My business has been restricted from expansion. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. I own 5 Fantastic Sam's hair salons. We employ between 45 and 48 employees. My original plan was to open more salons and employ more people. However, under Obamacare, I am restricted because it requires me to furnish health insurance if I employ more than 50 people. Unfortunately, the profit margin in my industry is very thin, and I'm not a wealthy person, so it's impossible for me to grow my business. My question to you, Senator Sanders, is how do I grow my business? How do I employ more Americans without either raising the prices to my customers or lowering wages to my employees?
Rhonda?
Okay. My personal opinion, completely reasonable question, completely reasonable woman, seems like a completely reasonable Q&A introduction to Senator Sanders. Okay. This is how Senator Sanders treats her.
LaRonda.
LaRonda. Okay. You own 5 salons.
That's correct.
And you employ close to 50 people.
Just under.
And what kind of health insurance do you provide to them?
None.
You provide no health insurance to them?
Correct.
Let me give you an answer you will not be happy with. And that is, I think that for businesses that employ 50 people or more, given the nature of our dysfunctional healthcare system right now, where most people do get their health insurance through the places that they work, I'm sorry, I think that in America today, everybody should have healthcare. And if you have more than 50 people, you know what? I'm afraid to tell you, but I think you will have to provide health insurance.
So my question is, how do I do that without raising my prices to my customers or lowering wages to my employees?
You see, the difficulty is, and I'm not much of an expert on hair dressing in general, and certainly in Fort Worth.
I'm just one of small businesses.
I know. But my guess is one of the problems that we have is there may be somebody else in Fort Worth who is providing decent health insurance to their employees. And they are in an unfair competitive situation regarding you. You can compete and maybe charge lower prices, get business, while they, on the other hand, may be providing decent health insurance.
I think you'll find the profit margin in my entire industry
maybe.
about
I
the same.
certainly don't know, about hair salons in Fort Worth. But I do.
See, that's the thing. He even admits he doesn't know anything about small business. And he completely demonizes this lady as if there's no he does not care about the small business owner. He does not care about business owners at all. This whole this guy is that it's only the rich that we don't like. That's total crap, and they know it. It's just it disgusts me that this is where we're at. That this is who my generation likes. Senator Bernie Sanders completely demonizing this lady. I guess we'll continue.
I do believe, to be honest with you, that if you have more than 50 people, yes, you should be providing.
Which again, she doesn't. She specifically said at the beginning of her argument that she has under 50, 45 to 48 employees. See, that's another thing. He didn't even listen. He heard, she owns a business. Oh, he's a bad business owner, millions of dollars.
Providing health insurance.
Senator Cruz? LaRonda, thank you.
See, and this is the thing. Ted Cruz's response is incredible. And this is the compassionate argument that you're about to hear. Senator Sanders gave you're not going to like this answer, but listen, everyone gets health care. I don't care how your business is doing, health care. And then here's Cruz's response.
For sharing your story, and it's good to see a fellow Texan here. And, I've got to say I've got a very different view than Bernie. I think actually what Bernie told you is the same thing President Obama said. It's the same thing Democrats have said, which is that you, the small business, you're apparently a bad actor because you're not allowed to manufacture money. Let me introduce you all to two terms that have become really common. 29ers and 49ers.
Okay, before we continue, this is off topic. I know you can't see it. I know this is a podcast. You can't see what I'm saying. But for the people that watch the debate, when these people come out from outside the podium, they're not like, it's like, okay, dude, back up a little. Back up. We can be personal, but we don't need to be that personable.
29ers are the millions of people across this country that have been forced into part-time work, that used to have full-time employment, and are now working 29 hours a week because Obamacare kicks in at 30 hours a week. And a lot of them are people, they're single moms, they're teenagers, they're immigrants, they're people who are struggling, and then 49ers. There are millions of small businesses in the exact situation you're in. A couple of months ago I was out in West Texas, was visiting a dairy farmer, driving around the dairy farm. I got to say, interesting smells on the dairy farm. Kind of reminds me of Washington. But the farmer brought up, he said, you know how many employees I have? I said, no. He said, I've got 49. He said, you know why I have 49? I said, yes, I do. Because Obamacare kicks in at 50, and he said, I could hire 20 or 30 more employees right now, but Obamacare would bankrupt my business, and that's millions of small businesses. So we're here at GW. Let me speak for a minute to all the young people. When you come out of college with way too many student loans, my guess is you'd like to get a job. And millions of small businesses being told by the Democrats, tough luck, we don't care if it drives you out of business, that's taken away opportunity, and it's hurting in particular the most vulnerable. It's one of the most damaging things about Obamacare.
See, he makes a great point. That's the thing, is that they don't care that it hurts people. They don't care that it hurts the small business owner. They care about pushing their agenda, and they care about getting their policy in. They don't care about you. We'll let him continue.
Senator Sanders?
Rhonda, let me ask you a question. What happens if one of your...
See, this isn't... It hurts me so much. He's demonizing her. That's not... no, just go ahead.
...or employees becomes ill? What happens? What happens if one of your employees, as happens in every part of the country, gets diabetes, gets cancer? What do they do if they don't have any health insurance?
I can't really answer that question, but I can tell you that because the premiums have gone up so much this year, and because I don't qualify for any kind of government subsidies, I don't have, for the first time in my life, insurance. It's just not affordable. Unfortunately, the prices of my services just don't warrant it.
Let me just say this, two things. Number one, as I mentioned earlier, it is absolutely true that the cost of premiums are going up. No argument. They went up even higher during the period of George W. Bush. So it's not like, oh, gee, for the first time in American history, premiums are going up. Number two, Ted mentioned part-time work, the 29ers. Well, there are fewer part-time employees today than there were before Obamacare. Okay? So here is the point. The bottom line is, with the situation you described, is honestly absurd. You should not be going around without health insurance. Your employees should not be going around without health insurance. We should not be spending twice as much per person on health care as do the people of any other nation. Please join me and fight for a Medicare for All program. Are you looking forward, by the way? I'm not going to ask you your age. Won't do that. But are you looking forward maybe when you get to 65 to get Medicare? Would that be of help to your family?
I expect that will probably happen.
Good. Well, I certainly hope it does, and I hope Medicare is still there, despite the efforts of Senator Cruz and others, so that when you at least reach 65, you will be able to get a decent health insurance program.
Well, Bernie, since apparently I'm now trying to kill the elderly.
See, that's... You don't need me to analyze this, but I'm going to anyway. You're all smart enough to understand what they're saying. Here's the thing. This is just something I've noticed. It's all emotion-based arguments. There's no living in the real world for the socialist mindset. It's all emotion-based arguments. It's all, well, don't you want to help your employee? You get what... Ted Cruz, fantastic response here. Here we go.
Let me ask you a question. When you heard that her premiums had skyrocketed, that she can't afford health insurance, you kind of said, well, premiums always go up. I mean, let me ask you, why did President Obama look in the eyes of the American people and promise LaRonda that her health insurance premiums would go down $2,500 a year? Was he telling the truth when he said that, and were you and the other Democrats telling the truth when you echoed his promise to the American people?
No, they were lying.
Well, Ted, for a start, as everybody knows, healthcare is pretty complicated. I think
Healthcare is pretty complicated. Let's just put it in the hands of the government. The government.
President Obama is an honest person, and I think based on his assessment, that's what he believed.
Was it true?
But let me...
Ted Cruz is such a savage. He's such a savage. His whole... Gosh, you know those tweets he did to that Deadspin guy? Was it Deadspin? It was Deadspin. Yeah, it was Deadspin. Where Deadspin was all, Ted Cruz has never played basketball in his life, and Ted Cruz tweeted a picture of that Duke player that he kind of looks like, and do you need more proof? That's my Ted Cruz voice. I'm not very good at it, but you get it. And then just the other day, Ted Cruz posts this thing. There's that, like, Photoshop picture of Ted Cruz looking like a thug or whatever, with, like, the chest tattoos and the arm tattoos, and it's like American Eagle on his stomach and all that, and he's got a cigarette in his mouth, and it's black and white, and he's up against a wall. It looks pretty badass, to be honest. Ted Cruz posts that on his own personal Twitter and says, I don't have the tweet right in front of me, but I'm paraphrasing. He basically says, I'd like to rebuke this a little. I do not smoke cigarettes. He's a funny guy. He's such a savage. He's got that ironic humor that's funny. I just love it. I love it. Anyway, we'll continue.
Turns out not to be true, but it turns out to be that under Bush, premiums went...
Okay, Bernie, I don't know if you heard this. Let's rewind a bit. Bernie Sanders just admitted they lied.
When you echoed his promise to the American people.
Well, Ted, for a start, as everybody knows, healthcare is pretty complicated.
Just listen here. He admits that they lied.
I think President Obama is an honest person, and I think based on his assessment, that's what he believed.
Was it true?
But turns out not to be true, but it...
That's all you need to know. I mean, that's not all you need to know. I hate it. I just broke one of my own pet peeves. I hate it when people say that's all you need to know, because typically that means they're hiding something from you. But that right there shows the absolute insanity of socialism, of leftism. It's the definition of insanity because, like, what isn't that the thing, right? The definition of insanity, what's the term? Doing the same thing over and over when it doesn't work, expecting different results. He just admitted it was a lie. But there's no but. There is no but.
It turns out to be that under Bush, premiums went up higher, not a new thing. Then the real question we should be talking about is why we do spend so much money on healthcare. And that means that we have to appreciate that we are spending hundreds of billions of dollars every single year, not on healthcare, but on administration and bureaucracy. Do you know how much money it costs to bill you? You got people, hundreds of people in large hospitals, they're sitting around not providing healthcare. They're working on paperwork, driving you crazy when you bring forth a claim. So we have to figure out how we have health insurance.
Well, there is an area actually where we agree, which is there is way too much paperwork with health care. There's way too much complexity. I'll tell you, when you talk to doctors, when you talk to nurses, they say, I don't get to practice health care anymore. I spend all my time filling out paperwork, all my time. Now, where the paperwork comes from is the government. It comes from Obamacare. In fact, there's some amazing stats. I'm going to go back.
No. This is where Bernie Sanders, he gets all scared. No, don't use the facts. Don't pull out the facts. He's so scary. No, don't pull out the facts. That's the thing. Ted Cruz used facts. Bernie Sanders used emotion. Here's Ted Cruz's facts.
And because they're really quite powerful, if you look at the paperwork impact, Obamacare's rules alone, and by the way, the Obamacare rules are 20,000 pages. They're taller than 7 feet tall. They generate $51 billion in costs and more than 172 million hours of paperwork compliance. And let me put that in perspective. What does that mean? That would take 86,200 employees working full-time, 2,000 hours a year, to complete 1 year of new paperwork under Obamacare. That's roughly the entire population of Miami Beach, Florida, doing nothing but filling out Obamacare forms. If you want your doctor to get back to caring for you, if you want to drive down costs, get government out of the business of dictating and controlling health care.
Well, that is right. There is far too much paperwork. Some of it is government, but you know what some of it is also? It is insurance companies. Every American who has filed a claim has the experience of fighting with the health insurance companies to make sure that they get what they are entitled to. Doctors have to spend half of their lives arguing with the insurance companies as to whether or not they can prescribe the medicine their patients need or provide the therapy that their patients need. Americans said we're going to have to make a very fundamental decision. Very simple. Is health care a right of all people?
No. And let me tell you why. You have a right to self-preservation as a citizen. You have a right to life, you have a right to liberty, and you have a right to pursue your own happiness. You don't have a right to guaranteed positive outcome. The good thing in America, and this is something that we can lay claim to, that makes our system the best system in the world, even when you hit rock bottom in America, even when you're not successful in America, even when you hit that failure point in America, under our system, if our system was being implemented the right way, if the government would get the hell out of the way, you're able to pick yourself up, dust your britches off, and get back to work towards being successful, towards getting to your happiness. Pursue your own happiness. Be self-reliant. And I know I'm straying a bit away from the topic of discussion here, but I hate it when people say, I have a right to health care, I have a right to, what's another thing? We have a right to birth control. Just because you demand something doesn't mean you have a right to it. The government does not provide your rights. Your rights have to come from somewhere. In our nation, our rights come from nature. And Ted Cruz kind of touches on that a bit.
If we agree, and I think most Americans do, that it is a right, how do you provide health care to all people with high quality in a cost-effective way? I happen to believe that Medicare is a popular program. It works well. Right now, you get it at 65. I think every American...
Senator Sanders, I want to pick the discussion up right there, if I may. Senator Cruz...
Yeah, let me make a real quick point,
Real
just
quick.
because I think
Real
this
quick.
it's nice having the back and forth and
It's
the
lovely,
line. But
absolutely.
One thing, Bert...
And to continue on there, this back and forth would have been great. Ted Cruz, gosh, I can't... This man could have been your president! He could have been the president. The most constitutionalist candidate I've had in my lifetime. He could have been president. We chose Donald Trump. Again, I hope Donald Trump proves me wrong. I hope Donald Trump ends up being this huge advocate for constitutionalism, for originalism. He's not. Not yet. It's still, again, I hate to keep repeating this, but it's early. He could end up being that guy. He's just not yet. I'll let this finish out. We're up on a break. We got to go do a break real quick, but I'll let Ted finish out here.
Bernie said that I think suggests maybe an area we could work together. You were talking about paperwork from insurance companies. I agree. There's way too much paperwork from insurance companies. I'd like insurance companies to have less power and patients to have more power. So maybe you and I could agree on a common sense reform of allowing LaRonda to purchase health insurance in any of the 50 states.
Oh, no. See, that's enough. His face, it just started. They're not, they tout themselves as pro-choice when it comes to abortion, not when it comes to the insurance you want to buy.
Right now, she's a Texan. It's illegal for her to purchase health insurance anywhere else. That would give her choice. If she doesn't like what the Texas companies are offering, she can go to Oklahoma, she can go to Florida, she can go to any other state. That creates a 50-state national marketplace. It drives down costs. It increases choices. Why don't we stand together against the insurance companies and agree on that reform?
You are listening to the Lanterns Radio Network, where Americans come together to illuminate the truth. Turn it up loud and proud until the knob breaks off. Lanterns, illuminating the truth.
Welcome back. The Free Stater here on the Lanterns Radio Network. I'm Ian Ballinger. Last segment of the show for this week. Last segment we talked about Super Bowl, more specifically the debate, the town hall, where Ted Cruz just eviscerated, destroyed Bernie Sanders. And he did. He really did. Great debate. Wish Ted could have been our president. I really do. And I wish that was the debate we could have seen during the general election. I really do. I think it would have been so awesome to see constitutionalist conservatism versus socialism, especially in the political climate that we're in today. Just a no-holds-barred, let's have the two sides of the political spectrum just duke it out. Would have been a lot of fun. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. This segment, I want to share with you a speech I gave back in high school. I was a pretty politically minded individual back in high school, believe it or not. And at the same time, I absolutely hated high school. I hated my time in high school. I really did. Didn't find myself being equally yoked with a lot of my classmates. But you know what? Looking back on it and rewatching the video from the speech, I think I turned out a generally okay person. I think I did okay in high school. That's far behind me. So you may be wondering, Ian, you're 20 now. Why do you want to share something from high school with us? And the reason is that I thought my high school self brought up some good points on principle. So here you go. Try not to cringe.
I stand before you today to celebrate a momentous achievement. The last 13 years have prepared all of us for this very day. Now we're ready to take the next step in our journey. I have not been part of this graduating class through the majority of my school years. I do not have the laughs or the funny stories or the unfunny stories to share. But I do have memories of my own. I still remember kindergarten as if it was my first day yesterday. Mrs. Garland's class in Osage City. Pretending we were on a plane to Hawaii or watching an in-flight movie and having an in-flight dinner, which was in reality just a bunch of fold-out chairs, an early 2000s TV, and graham crackers served with water. I recall times with friends that I did grow up with, ball games, birthday parties, hanging out. I remember the impact of my youth group at church growing up and the people from the not-so-distant past that I still call friends today. And all these recollections have made me reflect on the legacy that I'm going to leave on this chapter in my life. What will the legacy that the Healy High School class of 2015 leave? That question about legacy is pretty commonplace in graduation speeches, and while the legacy you leave is important, a legacy is something that is left, a moving past or beyond. I believe that those things are important because what we have done in the past does in fact define who we are and where we are going. But today I would like us to look forward to tomorrow at what's to come. I've always had dreams for my future and knew what I wanted to do early on when I was growing up, from a very young age. I was blessed by God to be in a loving home with parents who love, support, encourage, discipline, and most importantly, pray for my brothers and I daily. Since I was around 12 years old, I listened to this guy on the radio. His name is Glenn Beck. I would listen to Glenn every day. For my birthday one year, I even asked for a subscription to his TV channel, which might be a little eccentric for a 13-year-old boy, I realize, but I believe in what this man stood for, what he does stand for. In fact, rather than go to Hawaii this year on the senior trip, I asked my parents if they'd take me to the Mercury Studios in Dallas, the studios that Glenn Beck owns. If nothing else, then to just take a picture in front of the building. As God would have it, we ended up meeting the co-host of the show and receiving a private tour of the studios. We were even taken backstage and shown the productions that were in development. And that's an experience that I wouldn't trade for all the beautiful things Hawaii may have to offer. The beauty of believing in an ideal, of a vision for this country, for our society and our culture, seemed a lot more fulfilling and important to me. Now, one day, while listening to Glenn's show, I was particularly struck by something he said, and I quote, "The world doesn't have to be a bad place. But for that to be true, we have to be our better selves. We must empower, forgive, lift, enlighten, hope, dream, create, and above all, love." Most people will laugh at this idea. Let it. We won't notice because we'll be too busy changing this world. I used to ask myself how I could change the world. I'm from Kansas. What do I have to offer? I used to feel so limited. But I don't anymore. I no longer do. You look at the state our world is in. Just let it sink in for a minute. We live in a culture that is lacking the following virtues: integrity, personal responsibility, respect for oneself and respect for others, faith, a moral compass, love. I sit back and I look around me at this great, big, beautiful country we are blessed to live in and ask where the love is. Where did it go and how do we get it back? How do we instill love into our culture? How do we instill these morals and these principles into our culture? Or a bigger question, how do we instill it into our schools and in the children who hold the future? We must empower. We must lift. We must create. We must love. We must love one another. We must create a legacy that we can pass on to those who come after us. Even if you disagree with that person, even if you don't like them, love them. Because without love, we've already lost. Our culture is dead if there is no love in it. Earlier I mentioned leaving a legacy. To me, the only legacy worth leaving is one that isn't just a memory. It's one that continues influencing the world. And as much as our world tells us it's about the accolades we get during our schooling years or the accolades we get after, what's the most important is how we make those people around us feel. How we serve and help others with a willing and loving heart. We touch people's lives in so many ways. Most of those ways we aren't even aware of. But like the roots of a tree that branch out in places we can't see, the impact we have on others often goes unseen. What an untold story. And that story will resonate differently for each of us. Each of the students who graduate this year and who will be back next year. What kind of story will we, you, I, tell and give this world? I look back on the last 13 years of my life and I remember the things I have accomplished and ask myself what my legacy is at this point. Is it the useless participation trophies, the awards, the medals, even the honor, and it is a tremendous honor, of speaking here? I remind myself that the world will little note and most likely won't remember any of those things. The world will little note nor longer remember what we did inside of these walls. But the world will remember what we do outside of these walls. And I pray on bended knee that what my generation does is change this world for the better.
I go to the smallest school in the whole state. And I know that might seem like an over-exaggeration, but statistically it's actually true, 100%. I'm not even kidding. I actually go to the smallest school in the state of Kansas. And, you know, I don't even see that as a bad thing. I think that can be a good thing. I see a lot of potential in going to a small school. I mean, I see a lot of potential everywhere. During spring break, my family went down to Texas. Got to see the ocean. And, you know, I haven't seen the ocean in, well, for a really long time. And so it was a really awesome treat. I did a lot of self-reflection down in Texas. You know, asking myself, what am I going to do after high school graduation? I mean, being a senior is stressful. And I'm sure making any transition in life is stressful. But no matter what I thought, I kept asking myself, who am I going to be? But, you know, the anxiety, the feeling that I would never achieve my dreams, it just kept pushing me down. I'm an aspiring filmmaker. I love to tell stories, and while we're in Dallas during break, we meet Jeffy from the Glenn Beck program, and he gives us a tour of the Blaze, me and my family. Insanely nice man, insanely awesome experience. It was a blessing. I thank God for the experience, because it reminded me that I choose my path. I choose who I'm going to be, and to achieve anything, I'm going to have to work hard at it and have faith. You have tremendous potential. Potential for right and wrong, good and evil. The question you need to ask yourself is, who am I going to be? Who are you going to be? I listened to that last video there. That was a video I had made for the local cable channel that I was the quote-unquote student programming director on. It was run by the school, and I was the director of it. It was a lot of fun. It's weird to hear my voice like that. You know, I sound... it's weird. I sound a lot more optimistic back then. As weird as that sounds. I'm kind of seeing that as... I don't mean to get off track, but I'm kind of seeing that as, like, then a message to my future self. You have tremendous potential. You have potential for joy and spreading it with other people. You have potential for hatred. Conservatives aren't these heartless monsters, despite what the media may paint us as. Dare I say it, it is socialism that is the selfish system. But I digress. I still, right now, pray on bended knee that it is my generation that will change this world for the better. If you notice, I said change this world for the better, not change this world. The world is changing. Barack Obama's fundamental transformation of America, it happened. And it's still going on now. As I now am a college student, and I'm now seeing the changing culture in America, I notice the difference between now and 2015 when that speech was said. I couldn't imagine, first of all, Donald Trump being president. I couldn't imagine being in a culture that says, men, transgender men, you go into the little girl's bathroom. The difference 2 years makes, but barely even 2 years makes, is incredible. And it's not, in my opinion, a change for the good. I still believe that my generation, the millennials, has the power and the opportunity to right the course, to get this train back on the right track, to change this world for the better. But we have to stand for truth. We have to stand for facts, not feelings. And we have to love each other. There's truth in love. Love isn't just a feelings-based emotion. There's truth in it. And unfortunately, even by the people holding signs that say love trumps hate, dare I say it, they don't understand what love is. My side and their side. Neither side's getting it right. But we're gonna try to. Laus Deo. God bless. I'm Ian Ballinger. This is the Free Stater on the Lanterns Radio Network.
You are listening to the Lanterns Radio Network, where Americans come together to illuminate the truth. Turn it up loud and proud until the knob breaks off. Lanterns, illuminating the truth.